Reactive forms are most commonly used forms across Angular community. The major difference between reactive forms and template driven forms is that template driven forms basically uses the template directives to control, access the values and validate. But whereas in the reactive forms case, they are defined programmatically in the class section of the component and they are better manageable. The control on the components of reactive forms is enormous. So you could control pretty much, you could add dynamic controls, you could remove controls, you could manage the values, you could subscribe on the elements changes, and there's a lot of other programmatical interface available than the template driven forms. So that's the reason the community loves reactive forms. So let's look at a demo. Okay, we got our fresh Angular project and we just wanted to go ahead and delete the basic default shipment of code. And then so let me first run this application, see if it's everything is good. Let me quickly create a form in HTML. Now my form is ready, and let me go ahead and create a reactive form. And let's try to attach the form to this form field. I think we don't have a login button. Let's add a login button. There are two ways that you can create a reactive forms in Angular. First step for creating a reactive form is import the reactive forms module in the module that you are creating the form. Template driven forms, you need to import the forms module. If you are using reactive forms, you need to import reactive form module. Or if you are making a HTTP API integration, you would need to import HTTP client module and HTTP client, so respectively. So each other's job will have its specific modules, and that you need to import and to keep that dependency tree clean. So yeah, we have step number one is good. And then this gives us access to multiple classes called form group, form builder. So let's try to create a particular reactive form with form group instance. So form group. So let's first look at how do we create with login form. So new form group. Okay. So this form group method will create a group of controls for you to manage in cluster. So usually we in the template driven forms case, we just create an object here and that we tie that up with a UI with ng model. So here in this case, we'll create a control itself in the component. So now username, and we say new form control. And username, the default value of that particular username control will be empty. And the same goes with password. Now my form is ready. Tie this with my UI. So that's the next question that we need to answer. So once the form is created like this, we'll take the form name, we'll come to this UI, and then tie that with the form. To do that, what we need to do is we need to use an attribute for the form is this. Since we imported the reactive forms module, the form group property on form will be available for us to use. So now you say this is a form. So, and the form group is nothing but a group of a fields, and then the name of that form group is this. So that is login form. We imported login form. Then how do we, so the form is good. How do we tie the controls with individual controls that are inside this form? So now the next thing that we need to do is we should say form control name. Here in this case, we are just binding that property value to a particular control, a particular property. So now we're saying the control name is username. That's what we defined here, username. So, and then for the password, we'll have password. Okay. Now, how do I verify that my form is kind of, working? How can I verify that? So basically, I can print the form values here and see. Last time in the template forms case also, we just did try to understand that, template driven forms by printing its value, how it is working. Form that, you can say value. So it's JavaScript object. So we should say :JSON. Now this form has two properties on them. As soon as I change something, now the form is kind of values are tied up. The controls and the form is now tied up, and the values are being exchanged in real time. I could see the values changing. So that is good. How about validation? How can I do that? Okay. So you can do that. So if you need to do that, so there is another better way of doing it with form builder. So in the form builder case, you need a constructor. So basically, constructor is nothing but a function that will be executed at the time of I think form builder is now imported. Now I just don't want to use with a new keyword. I just wanted to induce that form builder to my component with a different name. So private I want to create a private variable called FB, and that should be an instance of form builder. Instead of saying login form, then we will say it as a. So we don't need this to be created immediately. So this will give us an error saying that it has no initializer to serve. So just to suppress that, you'll put an exclamation symbol right about before the semicolon. So it doesn't expect us to kind of. Okay, now we did look at the form group case, but now we are understanding how to build forms with the form builder case. So this in the constructor, or when the component is in fact initiated. So ng on init. We have to say implements on init, and we have imported the on init, and ng on init is ready. This dot login form is equals to this dot fb form builder dot group. This is a method that is going to create a form group for this controls. Now this time it would be so easy that you would say log username, and you simply put like this. You don't have to say new control or anything of that sort. Password. And the same thing. So even with the form group or form builder, we can achieve the same output. But with the form group, we can do few advanced techniques. Okay. So what we can do is we can supply some validators. So make this as an array and import validators from form. So we have to import this validator. You could use the default different validators that are readily available there. So you can say required. Instead of putting a required attribute on here in the template, we just control the form control here, and we control everything from here. And then this is validators dot an email. So I'll put the email validation. Now, if I come back here, password is just required. That's it. I think I'm good. Maybe I can say validators at minimum length is 13 characters. For my password, min length is 9 characters. Now, if I come back to my HTML, if I check the validity of the form, now the form validity is false because these validations have not met. So let me just try to, it's still false. Okay. Okay, something is wrong. Form is not being updated. The mistake I did is all the validators should also be a different array. So I thought all the validators should also be, specifically. So this thing should be an entire array. And the first argument of that array is the value that needs to be assigned to that particular control. So that is by default, of course, we will have empty value. It is a login form. And then whatever the validations that you wanted to add should be in an array so that it can pick it up as one and apply it on validator, as many it can min length. So that was my problem. So I kind of overlooked that one scenario. So now if I go back, my form group is ready. So I kind of needed to add an array around the validators. So that was giving me errors. So now if I change my username and password, it is reflecting and still false because it needs to be an email and this email is email. And now it needs to be 9 characters long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So this is required and it is in the email format. Now this is required and the data exists and it is 9 characters long. So the form validity is true. Now I can simply do this. Disabled not form valid. So unless and until this property binding will take care about, it will not enable the form to submit until unless I get the validation correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now the form is valid. Now the button is enabled. Look at the difference between template and reactive forms. The controls, the validation, the default thing, everything is structured in the component rather than it is, being controlled in the template, in a template itself. So yeah, so now you can have the centralized access of your validity, your values, any property that you wanted to access. So how can you control the submit? Now it is the same between React and template. Ng submit and bind that event to an event that is inside your component. Say on submit. This event is not available. This method is not available on your component. So go ahead and create your component, and you can send the form to this component like this. You can send the login form, and you come here and expect form, and this can be form group, and you can go inside and say console.log form.value. If you save it, if I meet all the things, if I submit, I haven't saved the template, my bad. I made changes to the template with this event, but I haven't saved that. So now I save it. I'm getting the form information on the submitted event from this location. So you can actually create UI notifications as well. If you are using reactive, material libraries like Angular material or anything of that sort, the validity will be automatically being indicated in the um, will be indicated automatically, because as soon as you assign the form controller, if it is not valid, material inputs will take care about highlighting in red or orange of that sort. So since we are using HTML default inputs, so there's no much styling there. But if you are using advanced libraries for this form control, you will see the highlights being automatically being taken care of for you. So that's second part. And yeah, next, UI notifications. I just wanted to cover the UI notifications. So if you wanted to show an error there, like we did in the template form, so you can put something like this, Dev. So and this Dev, you would say ngf login form. There is a method for get. So what do you want to get? You can get anything on that form. So for now, I just want to get the username field. So I just wanted to give username field. And what is it invalid or is it valid? That what we can check. So you can see all the parameters that are available for that control. Maybe I can say invalid. I save it. So if this is invalid, so I'm saying please enter email. So this is an instruction on top of the instruction that we have there. Style, color. So on top of this instruction and on this instruction, we just, in case if you want to indicate the user that this is something that is expected and you haven't entered it, so you will say, please enter email. And as soon as you enter this email, that has become valid, and this message is gone from the UI. If you entered something not an email, you will see this message again in red. So that's how you can control the visibility. But you don't want to show it right up front, right? You just wanted to, if user made something and he did not enter correct, then you want to show this message. So to control that, in the last event, what we did, we just checked, whether it is pristine or touched or not. So we can do the same thing here. Okay, we can say and login form dot get username dot dirty. So my bad, I lost power. Can you see my screen, guys?
No, bro. No, bro.
Okay. So let me just reshare my screen. So if you could see, now the message is not by default visible. If I try to enter and it is not valid, then I'm seeing this message. As soon as I enter the valid text, it has gone. Now, if I try to make it an error, it will come. And the same thing with password. I can just do the same thing with password. What happened? Okay, I think this is hidden somewhere here. It's not feeling shy to come. Okay, now I can copy the same thing, come to here, and I can simply say, instead of username, I can say password invalid and get username is dirty. Now, please enter minimum of 9 characters. Now, if I go back, if I try to enter one character, I think I made a mistake. Both of them should be password. So, yeah, if I enter less than 9, I'll see that. If I enter not an, if I enter a invalid email, I will see that. So basically, instead of tying a lot of things from the template, so in the reactive case, everything will be driven from component. So you get a lot of control over your control. You get a lot of control over your form validation and data, and you can actually do a lot of things like this. So after a particular, you can patch the values to this form like this. So if at all there is a case where you need to autofill some of the things, like I mean, this is not the exact use case, I just wanted to emulate certain thing. Okay, I just say button. Let me create a button that will say autofill, and when it is clicked, I'll call a method which is not existing in thing. I think this button is actually submitting the form itself. Maybe I can do this, I can put it outside of the form, so to just avoid that thing. If you're able to see my screen, so what I just wanted to do is, how can I patch the values like this? I just don't want, I want the values to be pre-populated uh, in this section. If I in runtime I wanted to fill something here, how can I do that? Should I come to this page and select this element and submit it? So you should not do it. I want some of the things auto filled, so you can do that. So this dot login form dot, there are a lot of other methods that you can use. You can add a control on the fly. You don't have to, once you created two controls, you need a dynamic control to be added in the on the fly. You can add a control, you can add a validator. So anything that you wanted to do, pretty much all these methods will help you to do something. And you can get a control, and you can subscribe on certain control changes, controls. So you can get all the controls that you see, that you get here. So let me console.log. So I might be talking about few of the things, but what I was saying is, you can access any of the inputs, methods, or property directly on here. You can subscribe on some changes, and you could do something with the changes, or you can transform a value that is being entered. Like the user might have entered 10,000 rupees in plain text, and you could add a dollar sign or commas. So if you wanted certain customized operations, you can do by accessing all these methods that are available here. So you get a lot of control your forms, and you could do a patch data. Okay, one another thing that is important to cover, and patch value. I can say username, username. I want to patch it to something else, and password. I wanted to. So if I click this, I'm dynamically adding the value. So like this. So I just executed this method, and this is taken care of putting the values that I have here into this, and this is taken care of adding the value to the UA as well. So there are lots of methods. This is one example of that method that is, the Reactive Forms has to offer. You can add a control dynamically, and you can add it onto the UA as well with a ng repeat or anything of that sort. That's pretty much it for this demo. Please do subscribe and comment, or let me know if I need to improve something. So thanks, guys. I'll meet you in the next video.